So now, let's look at some more really surprising poems by Bradstreet. And these would have been even, almost startling to the Puritan community. Because remember, with these Puritans, they're a different breed of people, really, than people who were living in England and continental Europe during this time. These were people who were, in essence, fleeing from humanism and the secular life that was part of the Renaissance, and they're wanting to lead a much more religious life centered upon God. But then here we see two love poems from Bradstreet to her husband. And these would have been, kind of eyebrow raising for the time. Especially, let's take a look at "To my dear and loving husband. If ever two were one, then surely we. If ever man were loved by wife, then thee. If ever wife was happy in a man, compare with me, ye women, if you can." That's salty. Yeah, look at that. She's saying, hey, ladies, if you think you love your man, look at what I've got going with my man, because we got something better than you do. Oh, this is awesome. "I prize thy love more than whole mines of gold, or all the riches that the east doth hold. My love is such that rivers cannot quench, nor aught but love from thee give recompense." Wow, that's awesome. Now, you may think, oh yeah, that's awesome. That's really sweet. But what's the big deal, right? And here's something that not too many people know, is that according to Puritan teachings, after death, the bonds between husband and wife were dissolved, so that it could be wed to God, to Jesus in heaven. So what Bradstreet is doing here is that she's celebrating these earthly ties to a great degree. She's lifting them up, right? Wow, look at this. "Thy love is such I can no way repay. The heavens reward thee manifold, I pray. Then while we live and love, let's so persevere, that when we live no more, we may live ever." It's almost like she's saying that Puritan teaching, that the ties between husband and wife be dissolved right upon death. She's saying, well, if that's going to be the case, we got to work with those ties. Let's celebrate this love. And it's like she's saying, you know what? In heaven, maybe we'll still have these ties. Wow. Anne, what are you doing? A letter to her husband, absent upon public employment. "My head, my heart, mine eyes, my life, nay more, my joy, my magazine of earthly store. If two be one, as surely thou and I, how stayest thou there, while I at Ipswich lie?" I wish my wife could say or read things like this about me, to me. "So many steps head from the heart to sever, if but a neck, soon should we be together. I like the earth, thy season, morn and black. My sun is gone, so far in zodiac." You can just feel this, her husband's away, and she just feels lost, dead, without the sun, like the stars and the moon. Everything has shifted. Wow. If we look down towards the end of this poem, "Till nature's sad decree shall call thee hence, flesh of thy flesh, bone of thy bone. I here, thou there, yet both but one." She still recognizes, even though that they're separated, that they're still together, that they're still in essence one person. Wow, such love, striking, surprising that would be expressed. Raise some eyebrows in the Puritan community. Now, moving to Edward Taylor, another one of our Puritan poets. He has a poem similar to Bradstreet about death, but now death of death of a child. Something that today happens, but not nearly as commonplace as it was back in the early colonial period. And what Taylor is known for and what he's working with in these poems is something that today we call the metaphysical conceit. And what is the metaphysical conceit? It's a complex and surprising analogy. So in other words, you're taking two things that really, are different, and you're putting them together to create a sense of surprise. And then the complexity is inviting the reader into the poem to get in there and to kind of dig around and untangle. And again, we're seeing this with Edward Taylor. And in case you're curious, the use of the metaphysical conceit was very popular in England and continental Europe during the later Renaissance. If you've ever studied the first half of English literature and read the poems of John Donne or Andrew Marvell, they're another example of poets who worked with the metaphysical conceit. So how is that being addressed here in Upon Wedlock and Death of Children? If we look at this poem, what is Edward Taylor describing and giving us these really lush images of? Well, it's of a garden, right? But then working in to this idea of the garden, the death of a child, and how that would fit in. So, and say, for example, the third stanza, when in this knot I planted was, my stock soon nodded, and a manly flower outbrake, and after it my branch again did not. So it's talking about, fathering children. Brought out another flower, its sweet-breathed mate. One knot gave t'other the t'other's place, when chuckling smiles fought in each other's face. But oh, a glorious hand from heaven came, guarded with angels, soon did crop this flower, which almost tore the root above the same at that unlooked-for, dolesome, darksome hour. So what happens? It has some children, right? They're growing up, playing with each other, and then one of the children dies. Now, notice, again, with these Puritans, just like we saw with Anne Bradstreet, right? Right, this is from the guarded hand. It's an angel, right? It's not some random event. This is an event associated with God. Sure, it's sad, right? But remember that these Puritan poets, what are they trying to do? They're working on demystifying God through commonplace events. In prayer to Christ perfumed it did ascend, and angels bright did it to heaven tend. But pausing on it, the sweet perfumed my thought, Christ would in glory have a flower, choice prime. So Edward Taylor's thinking about the death of his child and realizes that this is God's doing, and there's something good in it. What's something the good in it is that this young child, this choice flower, has been picked by God to be taken up and put in the garden up in heaven. Wow. So this is an example of a metaphysical conceit. And we'll take a look at some more metaphysical conceits in the poetry of Edward Taylor in the next lecture.